On the other spectrum, obviously Liverpool, like we've already just said, they haven't started well. They started with 2 draws. Obviously, they got Núñez sent off in this last game. We were looking at this next game against Man United and thinking, well, this could be brilliant for Liverpool players, but there's a little bit of worry about them now, isn't there? Like Robertson got hooked for Tsimikas just after 60 minutes. Diaz actually has started quite lively and obviously scored a really good goal last night as well. But then we got Trent and Salah, who haven't, Salah was captained by quite a few people last night and he didn't really return. What are you thinking about these Liverpool assets? Because Robertson's the one that I'm kind of wavering on at the moment. I'm keeping him for next week, 100%, but there is that kind of wavering feeling which you didn't think you'd really have with a triple up of Liverpool.
Well, I was kind of all right with it. I mean, the clean sheets haven't really been there, and I think the injury to like Thiago's hurting them, and they've got Matip out, and they've got kind of a few problems, which is kind of the first red flag when you're investing a lot in a defence. So I think most of us have got Trent, for example, and then we're doubling up with Robertson, or we're going with Diaz alongside Salah. That's the 3 that a lot of people are kind of going with. Obviously, there'll be people out there without Salah or without Trent or whatever, but that's the kind of the kind of template, if you want to call it. But I'm worried about Robertson. I mean, when I watch him play, I think he's getting into good positions. I think he looks lively and attacking. But you've got to be concerned when the defence is struggling and he's getting hooked. They need a goal, for example, and they're choosing to take off Robertson and bring on Tsimikas, who I didn't think had a good game at all. And I think Robertson will be straight back into the side. But he's 7 million. And I'm looking around at players like James, who I haven't got, for example. I'm looking at the Man City defenders, someone like Diaz, or even going down to like a Cucurella at someone at 5 million and taking that 2 million and investing that elsewhere. I think Diaz is phenomenal value at 8 million. And I thought Robertson would be great value at 7. But I think at the moment, I'm actually thinking of selling Robertson this week.
Are you? See, I'm actually quite annoyed that Núñez got sent off, because he was the player that a lot of people were wanting to move their team around for, wasn't he? He was the one where he's 9 million as well, so he's not an easy person to get to. Most people have Jesus and thought about maybe upgrading him, but obviously that's 1 million. And also Jesus has got perfect fixtures and he's just had an absolute haul with 2 goals and 2 assists as well. But now Núñez has been sent off. It's kind of only Diaz you need to get to, and I was quite enjoying people ripping up their teams to try and get to Núñez. So I think Robertson's fine for a hold, personally, but I can understand why people are wavering. The thing you don't want is you don't want to lose Robertson and be without triple Liverpool for very long. I think you want to get back on that triple Liverpool. I know they haven't started very well, but there's no reason to believe that, this is just a kind of buck of the trend. But you are right, with Nat Phillips starting, I mean, he was targeted heavily last night. Zaha was basically up against him all night, and it didn't go very well. But I think if I had Robertson, I'd be fine to hold, but I can understand people selling.
I mean, we have seen it was only a few seasons ago when Liverpool had injuries similar to kind of what they're having to deal with now. It wasn't probably not quite as bad. And Van Dijk was out, and then Gomez got injured, didn't he? But they really, really struggled that season. And Thiago is a huge loss for them in midfield, as I kind of said earlier. They're also trying to adapt to these new, with Núñez, with Mane leaving and all that. I know Liverpool are a great team and they will kind of turn it around, but early days, there might be a bit of a transitional period. I'm going off, the fixtures are so good though. I mean, United next, and I think they've got Bournemouth as well, and then another home game. Yeah. It's a really interesting one. So early in the season, I thought Liverpool would just be a lock for, 6 months or whatever, but I don't know. Yeah. I can kind of see why people might drop down to 2, for example.
It's also, like you said, it's a lot of money to spend on a defender, 7 million, when you've got players like James, you've got the City defenders that are doing so well. You've got Cucurella, who we're going to get onto a little bit later as well, who you could free up funds and move to them. Or you could get Diaz in your midfield, and 8 million for a midfielder doesn't seem that much. It's just because Robertson is 7 million. But, I've seen people suggesting selling Trent as well, which just seems mad. But at the same time, they haven't been performing that well in terms of output. In terms of actual stats, their positioning and where they're getting on the pitch and how advanced they are. Robertson's looked more advanced than Trent a lot of the time. Although it was very interesting watching Trent playing up front at the end of the game last night.
Interesting is one word for it.
Yeah. But it's I think for me, there's still a hole because it's Liverpool. But I can understand people moving off the double defence because, as we've alluded to, if they're playing Nat Phillips out, Joe Gomez isn't completely fit yet either. I can't see a great deal of clean sheets. Or I'm not overly confident with a great deal of clean sheets coming up soon.
But you're a hold on Robertson and I'm a potentially sell.
Yes, yeah, I think I'm a hold.
Yep. Yeah. Quick one before we move on. Firmino, 3-match ban for Núñez. Yeah. Jota still injured. Yes or no?
No. No, 100% no. They might play better with him in there. He might, hold the ball up a bit more and bring in Salah and Diaz a little bit more, which would be quite nice. But he's a definite no for me in terms of as an asset.
He's that classic pick where I think a lot of people will go to thinking they're clever. I'll grab Firmino. Yeah. He's 8 million, play him up front. I get 3 games. And then those 3 games will end. You'll have no attacking returns from him and you'll be stuck with Roberto Firmino, who isn't in the starting lineup. You see it every year, don't you?
And then he'll get a hat trick in the next game.
Yeah, that's always amazing.